Yes, every relationship will have its challenging moments, but how we approach those challenging moments can shift them from being fights that leave us feeling disconnected and having painful ruptures to conversations where we can actually learn something, grow closer together, and feel more connected. We're going to talk about this in today's episode. So if you find yourself having conversations that turn into fights that often feel pointless, or having the same fights that never really quite get resolved, or you feel like slowly bickering is creeping into your relationship and you want to get back to that ease and playfulness, or maybe you avoid conflict altogether. If any of that sounds like you, then stay tuned for this jam-packed episode. We're going to talk about why we fight, how we can stop fighting, and I'll share with you our 6-part framework to help you turn those fights into truly growth conversations. All right, let's dive in. So first off, why do we fight? This is the person who is probably the closest person in your life. Maybe the person you've even chosen to spend the rest of your life with. We don't want to fight with our partner. So why do we do it? We'll explore this, but first I want to say, if you're fighting in your relationship, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with your relationship. Of course, you are two different people with two different backgrounds, two different childhoods, two different experiences, two different perspectives. Of course, there are going to be things that you don't agree on. Of course, you'll disagree and misunderstand each other. Of course, you'll rub each other the wrong way or touch each other in tender places. So here are the 5 main reasons that we fight. The first is fear, and this can come in many different flavors, but some of the deepest and most common fears that we find are fear of abandonment or disconnection and fear of vulnerability or closeness. Most of us carry some kind of hidden fears from early childhood experiences, and these can come in a lot of different flavors. Some of us have a fear of losing love or being abandoned, while others have a fear of getting too close. These fears are mostly below our conscious awareness and can really cause us to unconsciously mess things up. For example, a client of mine, she recognized in one of our sessions that she had a fear of getting too close. And beneath that was this fear of being left, being abandoned. So there was a protection around her heart that said, if I don't let my husband get too close, then he can't hurt me. He can't leave me then. Now, this fear we recognized came from early childhood experiences. And as you can see, the irony of fears like these is that they actually cause the experience of the thing that we fear if they're left unaddressed. If I have a fear of closeness because I don't want to lose love, then that's going to cause me to unconsciously keep somebody at a distance, to not get too close. And what does that lead to? Well, it leads to losing love eventually. So with this particular client, we were able to bring this fear to the surface, into conscious awareness, where she could then recognize it, acknowledge it, let it be seen, let it be fully felt, and find out, what does this part of me need in order to feel safe to let love in? So I encourage you to reflect on this yourself. When you feel an upset in your relationship, tune into your heart. What fear is there beneath the surface? What is your heart trying to protect you from? What does your heart need in order to feel safe enough to open up? And the second reason that we fight is unmet needs. Now, we all have basic fundamental needs like being safe, belonging, being loved. And if these needs aren't being fully met from within ourselves, then we look to our partner to meet these needs. As Harwell Hendricks teaches us in his excellent book, Getting the Love You Want, we all have some kind of unmet needs from early in childhood. Even if we had the most loving, caring parents, they couldn't meet every one of our needs 100% of the time. And as we grow older, and then as we come into an intimate relationship, our parents are no longer those primary people in our lives. That role shifts over to our partner. They become that most important person in our life. And so then we start looking to them to fill these unmet needs from our childhood. And yes, our partner can help us to meet these needs, but it's important for us to learn to meet them ourselves first. And then that gives us the capacity to ask our partner for what we need, as well as to meet those needs for our partner. The third reason we fight is the ego and self-protection. Essentially, we all have this ego, right? Our self-identity, the construct of who we are in the world. And this ego really likes to be right. So we can cling to this need to be right. And it's just a form of self-preservation of the ego. It's very natural, so we shouldn't shame ourselves for it, but we should practice recognizing that and recognizing that that's just our ego wanting to be right, wanting to survive. But ask yourself, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Remember that there are very few objective truths. So when you find yourself really wanting to be right, consider there are probably many perspectives that are just as true as the one that you are holding in this situation. So can you start to look at those other perspectives and let loose on the grip of needing to be right about this? The fourth reason that we fight is past traumas. So we all carry some form of past trauma within our body. So whether they're big or small, traumas stay in the body and stay in the unconscious, and then current relationship dynamics can trigger these past traumas. It's tempting to view this as a negative thing, but I truly see this as one of the most beautiful gifts of relationship. Because think of it this way. There's some kind of trauma that you're carrying, and you could be walking through life with this unconscious, unresolved challenge that is tying up energy, right, in order to keep it padded, safe within your body. This takes energy, and you could be going through life unaware of this, but feeling like something doesn't feel quite whole. You don't feel 100% fully yourself. But then when you get close to someone in relationship and they start to trigger that trauma in some way, it gets to come into your conscious awareness where you can finally see it and finally address it, finally process and feel what has been unfelt and unprocessed, bringing that part of you back into alignment with yourself, back into wholeness, and freeing up this energy that was tied up in this trauma and bringing you more aliveness in the process. What a beautiful gift that partnership can bring us. So rather than seeing our past traumas as scars that are some kind of negative thing that are always going to live with us, we can see them as invitations to meet parts of ourselves, to give parts of ourselves what they really need to come back into wholeness. And our partner can help us with that by being a mirror and by pushing our buttons in ways that don't necessarily feel great, but in the end will really help us in our growth and in our becoming. And the fifth reason that we fight is a lack of emotional regulation. So if one or both of the partners don't have the skills to really regulate their emotions, then things that are just simple disagreements can really escalate quickly. So what does emotional regulation look like? Well, it means being able to, first of all, recognize when you are emotionally dysregulated and to be able to pause and use mindfulness to notice the emotion, to allow it to be there, to let yourself feel it rather than trying to push it away, and then to just get curious about what does this part really need from me right now? What is this emotion trying to show me? The good news is this is a skill that can be learned and practiced, and a skill that I spend a lot of time with my clients in coaching sessions, because it's so foundational to being able to be in a harmonious relationship, not just in your romantic relationship, but in all of your relationships. That covers the 5 main reasons why we fight. We have fears, we have unmet needs, we've got the ego and self-preservation, we've got past traumas and emotional regulation. And to put it simply, at the core of all of this, the reason we fight is because there's a part of us that feels unsafe, that wants to protect itself.